And, oh, thank you, Deb. We're going to, yes, beautiful. So
So it is my greatest honour to introduce our next presenter, which is Dr. Elke Perdacher. Elke is the Program Coordinator of the Postgraduate Training at the Queensland Forensic Mental Health Service and Adjunct Lecturer in the School of Criminology and Criminal Justice at Griffith University. Elke is a forensic psychologist with 25 years experience working in advisory and service delivery positions, primarily with forensic mental health clients in custody. Her practice and research interests lie in the use of digital mental health technologies to enhance the well-being, the mental health and rehabilitation of people in custody, and she'll be presenting today on digital mental health in prisons. Thank you, Elke.
it's always a bit odd introducing yourself and talking yourself up before you do a presentation. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging again the traditional owners of lands we stand on today and all the lands throughout Australia that our online attendees are sitting on today, and paying my respects to the elders of these lands, the elders that are past and the elders present today. And I really hope that anything that I present within my presentation is sensitive to the hardships suffered by people across Australia. So today, in short, I'm really going to talk in general about digital mental health in prisons, and then I'm going to finish up by talking about a project that we did with a focus on the implementation, so some things that people might want to consider if they're going to do the same. So what we know is that we have a gap between the mental health and wellbeing of prisoners and people in the general community, where we have prisoners experiencing mental disorders to a greater degree than people in the general Australian population, with high prevalence rates of suicidal ideation, substance use disorder, depression, anxiety and psychological distress. So in order to address this gap, within the bounds of the available resources we have, so we have finite resources, prison mental health services need to adopt innovative approaches to address factors underlying this gap. So the vision is ultimately to achieve equivalence of mental health outcomes for people in custody to eventually people in the community, capitalising on this rapid advancement that we have in the adoption of digital mental health technology that researchers and developers have written on a range of different mental health issues, resulting in what is a reasonably strong evidence base for work in the community. However, the evidence base for digital mental health tools and systems for prisoners is near non-existent. So despite this challenge, the use of digital resources to support mental health and wellbeing is likely to increase in the coming years. So given the degree that it's already influencing the work that we're doing in the general community. So as this occurs, access to digital mental health support within prisons may begin to mirror more of what we see in the community. So this extension of access will be enhanced by establishing a body of evidence supporting the feasibility and efficacy of digital mental health interventions in the prison context. So what we need are concerted efforts in creating, evaluating and raising the awareness of credible digital mental health apps, programs and services that we're going to need. A process I'll talk a little bit later about in my presentation. So the use of digital mental health apps and programs is just one innovative avenue to addressing access for people in custody to interventions. So this mode of delivery is known for its accessibility and cost effectiveness. So while the evaluation of digital mental health strategies for prisoners is a growing area, evaluation of these strategies are still very limited. The increased use of digital mental health apps and strategies within health and mental health have occurred with the advancement of technologies, modes of communication, and their accessibility to the general Australian population. So once again, this fast-paced burgeoning area. A speed of change in digital mental health provides great hope for us being able to bridge the gap in mental health. So we know already from what we've heard today and what we can read in the literature that Okay, so digital mental health refers to services targeting mental health problems via technology. So whether or not that's via computers, by phones, video conferences, virtual reality, online services, wearables, SMS, in apps in order to improve health. So we hope to use digital mental health to improve accessibility, affordability, and effectiveness in mental health care. These tools can be self-managed or therapist facilitated or support in-person services. And we know from research that there is support for these digital mental health interventions. The most widely evaluated group of digital interventions are those targeting depression and anxiety in the general population, and particularly sub-threshold symptoms of depression and anxiety. So when we think about some of the clients or the people that we have in custody, we have quite a high proportion of people that do present with sub-threshold symptoms that won't meet the criteria to be open to some of our mental health services, but still have needs. The evidence base for digital mental health tools and systems, guided or unguided, for prisoners, as I mentioned before, is practically non-existent. And that raises the questions about limits of generalisability of the positive results to this population. So in prison, the focus on technology in corrections has been on safety, security, and less on digital mental health and rehabilitation. So the focus on facility surveillance, electronic monitoring, detection, and offender information systems. So what we've done is we've taken the idea of smart cities and we've applied it on a smaller scale to make smart prisons. If we need to extend the technology beyond smart buildings and data management to mental health and rehabilitation interventions. So there are 4 categories to technology use in correctional psychology. So there's remote delivery, which is the provision of service to isolated or inaccessible locations. There's digitisation, so the transformation of records and information into digital format to assist with accuracy, organisation and data analysis. Assistive technology, so resources that aid in the delivery of services. And virtual reality, so virtual simulation technology. So in remote delivery, we saw COVID rapidly, like we really did turn on a dime, extend our use of telepsychology to clients isolated in prison. Digitisation, so the process of converting information into a digital format. In corrections, administrative information is the main source of digitisation, which aids in responsiveness to prison management. Assistive technology, so that's the primary focus of my presentation here today. And it's a concept that was originally used to describe technological advancements to assist people with physical disability, so visual and hearing devices. It's since been extended to include education and mental health applications. So therefore, digital mental health in the context of correctional psychology is a technological resource that can be used to assist in the treatment, rehabilitation and reintegration of a prisoner. So this is where the primary focus of this presentation sits. So the support of the delivery of apps within the prison environment. Key to the implementation of digital mental health resources into service delivery is that prisons are naturally a highly regulated communication space, and that's naturally because of safety and security of the centres. We regulate what prisoners read, what they listen to, what they watch, and whom they communicate with. Internet access is prohibited or extremely restricted within prisons in most countries to prevent breaches of security. And these limits are extended to devices that have the potential for communication. So with contact with the outside, such as smartphones, tablet PCs and laptops. So restrictions on devices and internet use places limitations on the availability of digital mental health and wellbeing tools for prisoners, both in Australia and other countries, so resulting in this strong digital divide. So beyond communication, staff and stakeholder attitudes, that's another barrier we need to consider. So depending upon your ideological framework of the purpose of a prison is going to affect whether or not you support bridging this digital divide. So in simple terms, are you sitting on the side of prison being about punishment, containment and isolation from the world as a retribution for people's offending? Or do you view prison as normalisation of prison life as an approach that emphasises that prisons should resemble positive community life as much as possible? So this results in some common contrasts within the prison environment where we see high-level technology used to monitor and contain prisoners and low access to digital technology to improve prisoners' mental health, wellbeing and risk of offending. We also need to consider the barriers of centres not being financially and digitally prepared for updated technological advances that we see in educational and health facilities. So when I worked in prison, we prided ourselves on how thick our walls were and how difficult it would be to access Wi-Fi. And so now that's sort of sitting in the place of, now that's a challenge. Despite these challenges, the use of digital resources to support mental health and wellbeing in prison is likely to increase in coming years. So as this occurs, access to digital mental health support within prisons may begin to mirror more what we see in the community. So the extension of access will be enhanced by establishing a body of evidence, supporting the efficacy of digital mental health interventions in prison, and with us putting in a concerted effort into creating, evaluating and raising awareness of credible digital mental health apps, programs and services. So outside of security and containment, internationally and nationally, digital tools or information and communication technology are being used to support prisoners in completing day-to-day tasks, appointment reminders, enhancing education and vocation skills, accessing family and support, including legal counsel, video conferencing as a platform for psychiatry and psychotherapy sessions, access to basic self-managed resources such as mindfulness, sleep hygiene, and relaxation audio and apps, and use of more intensive digital mental health interventions, both self-managed and practitioner facilitated, some of which we see already and the potential for in inmate tablets we've heard about in New South Wales. However, the more intensive ICT examples are the exception rather than the rule. So we have limited programs that have been introduced in Europe, the UK, Canada and the US, but they're typically involved in low security prisons that have fewer restrictions on internet access and ICT support. So we can see the use of apps to support reintegration in prisoners in Sweden and the UK, use of apps to support treatment of substance use, apps in Singapore Prison Service to support rehabilitation. And in Australia, there's a Level Up, a cognitive skills program for offenders that is supported by a gaming experience entitled Outside. We've got iTalk, which provides Indigenous prisoners with the opportunity to develop computer-based narratives to assist with better understanding incarceration. And then we've got our project in Queensland Forensic Mental Health Service, where we implemented and evaluated the use of the Stay Strong app with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in high security prisons in Queensland. So what we want you to do is learn from our experience. So our Indigenous mental health intervention program in the Queensland Forensic Mental Health Service provides a prison in-reach social and emotional wellbeing service for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in prison, a service that's Indigenous led and staffed. And it's through this service that we delivered the Stay Strong app and other apps adapted specifically for this project. So I'm going to use our experience of implementing digital mental health resources into an in-reach prison service to discuss some of the implementation challenges and solutions needed for success. And our hope in doing this is to provide a precedent, learn from our mistakes, make it easier for the next group that comes along. So, what did we learn in implementing our own digital mental health resources into a prison service? The focus of our project, the Stay Strong Custody project was to implement and evaluate the effect of a culturally safe digital mental health tool on the wellbeing and mental health of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in prison. More specifically, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Mental Health Initiative Stay Strong app to support the assessment and treatment of prisoners as part of an SEWB service. The Stay Strong app is a structured therapist-facilitated mental health and brief assessment and intervention tool developed specifically to enhance people's social and emotional wellbeing. So the app was based on the original paper version. The paper version's been in place since 2007, demonstrated significant improvements in client wellbeing, life skills, and alcohol dependence. In 2013, they developed the iOS or Apple version of the app. In 2014, we converted that to an Android version, along with 4 other supporting digital mental health apps for our service delivery, which included measures to help evaluate and assess not only our clients, but also our project. And so we were the first project to implement a digital mental health app into service for assessment and intervention in Australian high security prisons. And so that happened in September 2015. And the project involved implementation, evaluation of practitioner training, acceptability of the Stay Strong plan or app by clients and practitioners, feasibility of an RCT approach within the prison environment, and efficacy of the Stay Strong app in improving clients' wellbeing, empowerment, and psychological distress. So the studies were designed with the primary aim of providing structure to future implementation and evaluation of the Stay Strong app, and more broadly digital mental health tools into the high security prison environment. So this is what our tablets look like. So that's the interface. We had Android tablets. We used a software program called SureLock, which locked down the tablets, which meant I was the only one with the password to unlock it. So practitioners were only able to access the apps that are available that you can see there. It was Wi-Fi only, but it was locked down. So even if you got access to the tablet, were able to unlock it, you wouldn't have been able to connect to Wi-Fi. All our apps were written to be standalone, so they didn't need Wi-Fi to work. We've got the K10 version, wellbeing scale, the GEM, which is also another measure, the Stay Strong app. We had a feedback interview, we had forms, videos, music, brief interventions, a map of communities, and notes. So it was fairly basic, fairly straightforward. And so that's 10 years ago. And so you can see that there's so much more that there's potential to do with what's available now in technology. So this is a Stay Strong app. I won't talk too much about it because there's information available online at the Menzies School of Health Research. But basically there's 9 key steps, but of the 9 steps, what you were looking at is the people that keep me strong, the things that keep me strong. So looking at social and emotional wellbeing. So looking at the Stay Strong tree and the branch of the Stay Strong tree. So looking at people's spiritual and cultural needs, physical, family, social and work, and mental and emotional. Then we've got worries. So what are the things that are taking away from your strength? We've got 2 opportunities to do goal setting. And then there's 2 other pages in the community version, which have tips around substance use and wellbeing. And then the custody version, we also included a page for professional supports. And this is the output, or the 3 outputs from the custody version. So we had, if you think about what it's like to be in a cell, we've got limited access to photos of family, limited access to images, Bessa brick. In prison now in Queensland, 2 to a cell. Sometimes you've got a 3rd person out, depending upon the accommodation area you're in. So what we had, originally I asked for mobile phones for upon release. So we ended up with plastic laminated cards. So inside, after each session, you get a laminated card that had who your support people were, who your strengths were, what your worries were, things you were going to work on. And you had one of those laminated cards went back to you to your cell, and we folded it in a way so that the image of family would face out, and then another copy would go to your property. So upon release, you take that card with you. And we just wanted something small, wallet size, that people may not throw out. And then we also had the PDF printout. So the benefit of having measures that provide output in real time. So you're sitting down with someone, you go through a measure, and at the end of that measure, it interprets it for you, highlights a couple of things you might want to talk to the client about, and the Stay Strong app. So that's sort of spat out at the end as well, that you could put on file. And then we had an Excel spreadsheet that could be used for data analysis and general management purposes. So the hardest process, so everyone kind of sees, oh, it's just about writing apps and a tablet, but it's really, there's a huge implementation process behind it all. And I wish I'd found this when I first started 10 years ago. So hopefully it's of use to other people, but 5 steps that we follow. So the conception, initiation, definition, planning and approval, launch, performance and support, and then project transition into sustained adoption. So I apologise for wordy slides. So with conception initiation, it was about identifying who is our client base going to be, what is the app that we're going to use and evaluate, and the context in which it's going to be used. Then we scoped potential for the project with stakeholders, and then it went to the next step of defining, planning and approval. So development of the project plan and evaluation protocol. We gained support from the I'm HIP service, the Forensic Mental Health Service, leadership teams at the Correctional Centre and the Mental Health School of Research are the developers of the app. We gained approval from health departments, so Queensland Health, correctional and government agencies for implementation of the Stay Strong app service into the service and for evaluation. We gained approval and adapted the Stay Strong app to the Android custody version. We gained approval and adapted outcome measures from paper versions to Android apps. We developed feedback app, developed the lockdown tablet interface for the project. We trained practitioners in the app. So not only practitioners in the I'm HIP service, but also anyone that was interested in working with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander clients that may indirectly or directly come in contact with our clients. So we wanted to spread the news about what this app was used for. And then we tested the functionality, the user interface design, compatibility, performance, installation, and then offsite and on-site security. Then once we did all that, then we launched it in September 2015. So this was the first use of the Stay Strong app, and we started with I'm HIP clients at the Brisbane Women's Correctional Centre. Then after that, we went on to the Southern Queensland Correctional Centre and then on to Woodford Correctional Centre. Then step 4, performance and support. So we provided technical support, clinical supervision, support in the output production, so those practitioner reports, the client cards and management data. And then we continued training of practitioners. And then after that, we thought, well, why don't we take these tablets one step further? And the sort of a bit of a challenge of being an in-reach service into a prison is that your workstation isn't inside the prison, you're carrying it in a folder or in a bag with you. So why not have a laptop that has these apps on it, plus your own workstation that you can take with you? So we tried a different device and we used an Android emulator on a Windows-based tablet. And sometimes it's easier to keep things simple. So we had some challenges with trying to make a Windows-based tablet use Android apps. So we've moved along in technology since then. So there are solutions to that. And then after that, we went into transition into sustained adoption. So it's about evaluating, was this feasible? Was it effective? What did the clients think about this? What did practitioners think about this? And then managing the transition of technical support from the research team to the health agency. And then supporting continued use of the app and the other apps as well by the I'm HIP service as part of their service delivery model. So what did we show? We showed that there was feasibility for the recruitment, randomisation, assessment processes and implementation into a prison environment. We were unable to retain enough participants. We had low staffing, and we also have short-term stays of imprisonment for the clients we were working with, which made it, and we didn't have, as part of our evaluation, follow-up in the community. So in hindsight, get a little bit more money for the research evaluation and get approval to follow up clients in the community, which would help us have a stronger evaluation. And it provided us with the opportunity to be innovative in our delivery. So some of the challenges, so given the innovative nature of the project, challenges were expected. So even given my experience and the experience of our research team in working across correctional and health agencies, we expected challenges in the limitations of internet and technologies. So issues around security and logistics and data protection. So they're all successfully identified and addressed during the project. But there are also challenges that were not initially apparent at the inception of the project. That related more to policy supporting typical practice. Sorry, my throat's about to. So there were challenges that weren't initially apparent. So we didn't think about some of the more of the detail about policy supporting typical practice and the requirement of projects not being covered or considered under these, and limitations placed upon ICT support, including access to secure agency Wi-Fi and conflicts between practical requirements of using digital tools and existing workplace. So one of the things that we had in the beginning was the requirement of us to treat tablets like a paper file. So them being held, in a filing cabinet, so secure in the evening, but then needing to be charged. So there I am with a drill at the back of a filing cabinet, drilling a hole in the back so I could feed in a power cord to charge them overnight in a filing cabinet. So now we wouldn't worry about that if it's in a locked Queensland Health office. So this project would have been difficult or near impossible without the knowledge of the team and service around us and the motivation of the team really to do the best that we can for clients. So the motivation of the I'm HIP team and the Queensland Forensic Mental Health Service, and really also the support from the management teams within the centres. Okay, so where to from here? So what we need is a collaboration between prison authorities, forensic mental health services and academia in conducting rigorous trials of digital mental health and wellbeing interventions for incarcerated people. So the involvement of prison authorities is absolutely critical to this. Forensic mental health services, whether in reach or prison-based, who carry the primary responsibility of delivering effective mental health and wellbeing interventions, and also academia to provide that support around evaluation and publication. So if we can develop this field in the same way that mirrors that of the community, we can provide that evidence base that we need in order to extend the use of digital mental health tools within Australia and internationally. So we need to encourage pilots, trials, evaluations, and dissemination of these findings into publication. And with that, dissemination of the things that didn't work. So share with us the projects that didn't quite have the outcomes that you hoped. So our RCT, we didn't have the numbers we hoped for in the end, but if you can share with us the learnings from that, it means that we can build on those for the next project. And there we go. And there's some papers that are online in relation to this project that are available on open access. Great, thank you.
go aside for a minute and say thank you, Elke, for that fantastic presentation about the work that you've done, but also for forging the way with mental health apps in custody. I had the utmost pleasure of being in one of the centres when this was rolled out, and the reactions from the consumers was, yeah, very, very touching and very excited. And yeah, so thank you for forging the way.